So we've got an update on the lawsuit against Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty. This is the sexual assault lawsuit related to his rape conviction from when he was a teenager. The victim's lawyer in that case is saying that he actually cut off her July 9th deposition. The plaintiff was taking a deposition from Kenneth Petty's lawyer, but her lawyer cut it off because he thought the questions were harassing. And one of the questions was about whether she was conspiring with the federal government. And there were some other questions about Hollywood and movies. So her lawyer cuts off that deposition on July 9th. And then fast forward to yesterday, July 16th, Kenneth Petty, Nicki Minaj's husband, is scheduled to do his own deposition with the plaintiff's lawyer, and he doesn't show up. So now her lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, who's involved in a lot of other cases, filed a letter with the court in Eastern District of New York and Brooklyn Federal Court, asking the judge to intervene. He wants the judge to basically force Kenneth Petty to go to the deposition and to pay for the costs incurred by the plaintiff's lawyers from scheduling this deposition yesterday that Kenneth Petty didn't show up to. And this is the letter right here that I tweeted out. But I've noticed that anything Nicki Minaj related, especially on Twitter, gets tons of attention. But there's a lot of questions amongst her fans and just amongst the hip hop world about like what exactly is going on with this case. I think some people say the case has been dismissed, that kind of thing, but it's definitely not been dismissed. They're in the discovery deposition phase, obviously, as this letter indicates. And Petty was supposed to sit for a deposition yesterday and didn't. So the judge assigned to this, who got the letter yesterday, did order them to a hearing on July 31st. Here's the order. It's Magistrate Judge James Cho in Brooklyn. He's ordered Petty's lawyer to respond by July 24th. This is to the filing about him missing his deposition yesterday. And then a hearing is scheduled July 31st to decide what to do. So that's the latest on that lawsuit there. If you go to my Twitter, I've got a link to some background story on the complaint, but this is the amended complaint against Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, for sex assault. She was initially a defendant in the lawsuit, but she's been dismissed, so it's just against him. But this is over a 1994 incident in which he pleaded guilty to attempted rape, and this is the reason that he has to register as a sex offender. Kenneth Petty does, and he was actually prosecuted in federal court in Los Angeles for failing to register and is on probation for that. And that's what led to him being put on house arrest over his threats with Offset. I don't know if you all remember that. Last year, it was kind of a big dust up one weekend, and he ended up being on, I think, house arrest for 60 days or something because of related to that. Related to him being on the street threatening Offset. But yeah, if you guys go to my Twitter or legalaffairsandtrials.com, you can see everything here. So it doesn't look like any resolution in sight at all to the lawsuit if they're still just in the discovery deposition phase. But this is what the plaintiff's lawyers allege happened in the deposition. Towards the end of the deposition, the defendant's counsel began harassing the plaintiff. This is the woman who Kenneth Petty pleaded guilty to attempting to rape back in 1994 when they were teenagers. And she sued in the last few years because this had all come out related to his failure to register as a sex offender and his being on the sex offender registry. Her lawsuit claims that she's been harassed over this, and she's been, told by Nicki Minaj's team to withdraw and to withdraw her claims over this. So the lawsuit is related to that. It's been kind of festering in federal courts for a couple of years, but the news yesterday was that Kenneth Petty didn't show up to his deposition. So the plaintiff's lawyer is trying to get his deposition compelled and get him forced to pay the fees here. But it looks like there were some questions about why exactly he didn't show up, because the deposition that did happen on July 9th was with the plaintiff, and it sounds like the plaintiff's lawyer says he cut it off early here. Let me pause here. I'll be right back. So yeah, again, the news is that Kenneth Petty, who's married to Nicki Minaj, didn't show up for his deposition yesterday in a federal lawsuit in New York related to his 1994 attempted rape case in which he pleaded guilty. The victim in that case is suing him, and she actually sat for a deposition back on July 9th that was cut off early. Her lawyer says in this letter that he felt the questions were becoming harassing to her, so he cut her off. Fast forward to yesterday when Kenneth Petty was supposed to sit for his own deposition. He didn't show up. And the plaintiff's lawyer has written a letter to the judge explaining this and asking for an order to compel Kenneth Petty to sit for his deposition. And he also wants him ordered to pay for the costs of setting up this deposition that didn't happen yesterday. So this letter was filed in the Eastern District of New York, Brooklyn Federal Court yesterday, and he's asking for the judge to intervene. We haven't heard from Kenneth Petty's lawyer about what his response to this is, but the judge today gave him until July 24th to respond, as it says here. And then July 31st, there is going to be a hearing at the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse. So by a week from today, we'll see a response from Kenneth Petty's lawyer about why he didn't show up for the deposition. And just reading through the letter from the plaintiff's lawyer, I'm imagining we're going to be hearing a lot about, alleged inappropriate behavior or alleged obstruction by the plaintiff's lawyer in the first deposition that the defense lawyer somehow thinks, justifies him not participating in another deposition. But I think it just shows how contentious this case is and all that's going on with it. But also, it underscores that this is an active case. Like anybody who says this case has been dismissed or isn't going on, they're wrong. It is currently going on. It's been going on forever, and it's kind of dragging on, but it's going on. When they're sitting for depositions, that's when stuff's getting serious, guys. So stay tuned for more news on that, and obviously stay tuned for more news on the YSL trial. I need to go through the interviews and clip out more highlights from Max's interview and Doug's interview. But I'd like to be able to jump on here, whenever there's some breaking news to try to explain it to you, just like the judge changes this morning. So anyway, I will see you guys later, and thank you so much for tuning in.